Hello. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Antonym and Bhasha Sangshad, welcome to all of you in the Kolkata Poetry Confluence and Crossing the Bridge, that's the theme, where languages meet. It is a unique opportunity to listen from the poets themselves. Today, we have with us Anamika, Professor of Department of English, Satyawati College, University of Delhi. Anamika needs no introduction. She is very famous. She is a Hindi poet, novelist and translator. Poems from her national award-winning poetry collections Anushtup, Khurduri Hateliya, Dub Dhan, Tokri Mein Digant and Pani Ko Sab Yaad Tha are prescribed at various universities, and her novels Das Dware Ka Pinjara and Tinka Tinke Paas have been staged as major productions in Marathi and Malayalam. Her essays on womanist discourse in Hindi have been translated into many languages, and she herself has translated Rilke, Neruda, Doris Lessing, Octavio Paz, and fellow women poets extensively. Her doctoral thesis is on John Donne, and her major English publications include Transplanting British Poetry in Indian Classrooms, Donne Criticism Down the Ages, Post-War Women Poets, Treatment of Love and Death, Feminist Poetics, Where Kingfishers Catch Fire, Translating Racial Memory, Weaving a Nation, Proto-Feminist Writing in Hindi and Urdu. Her recent novel, Aina Saz, transplants the life and times of Amir Khusro into the contemporary context of identity politics and horizon fusion. For her poetry collection Tokri Mein Digant, she has received the Sahitya Akademi Award of the 2020. She is a trained Kathak dancer too. Welcome, Anamika.
Hello, Yashodhara ji.
I hope we have a nice conversation on this stage. I am really sad that Anju Makhija also was supposed to join us today. She's in Kolkata, but yesterday she was she found that she is having COVID, so she opted out. But today we are going to talk about women, women writing, women poetry, and I think we can straight away go into the issue.
Right.
Whether you think that gender is a very important thing in your writing and in general in Indian writing, and what do you think about being labeled as a woman poet, or whether you think that as a writer you transcend gender?
There are different stages. Parakaya Pravesh is the key term in Indian poetics and in Indian aesthetics also. What Keats refers to as negative capability, the power to step out of your persona, of your deeper identity, walk out and behold even yourself from the some other perspective. That's the key thing. That's what we do in the meditational zone. That's what we do in darshana. Even, stepping out of your limited being. There are many layers of our beings, not only of history and culture, but also our identity is somewhat like like an ancient manuscripts. I mean, all the pages are folded into one another. If you ever go to to an old library and hold the manuscript in hand, they're so brittle. One page on another, the collective identity is folded into the personal identity. And because I think we are living, or at least dreaming of building an egalitarian world, isn't it? A world where there is no hierarchy between classes, castes, genders, races, communities. We're dreamers. So we are all dreaming together. Yes. What are we doing here? We are all dreaming together. Right. So at least at the level of utopia, you think that there should be no narrow divides.
Yes.
But as you know, Yashodhara, we all have been taught by our parents and our teachers and the people around us, because we are a community-based society, by our paras,
Yes.
which are extended families, that ego, even Kabir says, I'll better quote Kabir because it's easy to talk through a poem. He says, जल में कुंभ कुंभ में जल है बाहर भीतर पानी फुटा कुंभ जल जल ही समाना यह तत् कथो ज्ञानी. The narrow picture of your ego must, shatter. And the water within should dissolve in the water around you. So aham and vayam. If we are trying to build a society where there is no hierarchy between aham and vayam, me and thou, we are also trying to, in an ideal situation in a poem, we all know, the theme is reflected in the craft. So if the theme is egalitarianism, the craft also should mirror it. Yes. And as artists, all of us are trying to break the hierarchy between personal and political,
Yes.
cosmic and commonplace, sacred and profound, whatever. Even gender hierarchy, all kinds of hierarchy, we want to snap. Like remember, Yashodhara, have you ever seen a crochet?
Yes.
You remember, you must, in Bengali films, we keep seeing those old heroines wearing those blouses with crochet. Yeah. So what happens when in a shuttle work, when we weave a lace? Or what happened when Kabir wove from Tana to Barni? We are actually doing this crochet kind of a thing. From personal to political, from this identity to, we are trying to connect. So gender, of course, to begin with, because there's a problematic space, there have been hierarchies. But the ideal situation is that we lay a mat and everybody would be sitting on the same mat, eating from the same plate. That's the ideal. But to begin with, the takeoff point could be your home. Home is where you return, and home is where you start from. Yes. So because gender is a problematic zone, because there have been instances of very many discriminations at the level not only of class and caste, but also of gender. So we have been trying to tell people what happens if we are on the other side of the fence. They say if the deer doesn't tell her own story, the hunter will never stop hunting.
Yes.
So the ideal is to build a friendly society, but to tell stories from multiple perspectives.
Right.
And that's why the gendered perspective or the caste perspective is very important. Even the race and the whoever is oppressed must be granted a tongue.
I have my own experience to share, just one or two lines, because we are here to listen to you only. But I remember that when I started writing poetry, I was writing without gender. So that, one of your book is called Das Dwareka. So we never feel that I am inside a pinjara unless and until somebody points out to you. Yes. So initially my poetry was free. Then by age, I became very conscious about my gender because people were pointing out the gender to me. And they will try to specify a space for you and you cannot go outside that. So that sort of hindrance is felt and then only people start breaking the hindrance.
And it's very important to tell our men that we have not dumped them. We do not consider them beyond repair. There have been some damages. But if they choose to be hyper masculine, it's very difficult to love them. I mean, women, even inside a marriage, feel very lonely. Yes. And young women find it very hard to find a lovable man in universities. I keep meeting young teachers and students.
Now it's a big problem.
Women, I mean, you have to become a lovable man. And to become a lovable man, you must read women's writing. Because whatever is her, you have that in you. It's only all of us are objecting to the idea of being hyper-masculine like America or hyper-feminine like a Barbie doll.
Right.
Being a man and woman is fine, but unless you become hyper, you become unlovable. And if you become unlovable, we can only pity you. And pitying your partner is not a very good idea. We can still carry on. But if you are being treated like yet another sick baby, it's not a healthy idea.
But I'm hopeful that now many boys are also breaking the stereotype.
Boys are breaking stereotypes. I have a poem called addressed to my younger students. And a new man is now being born.
Yes, yes, I know. So, Anamika, I think you can give some examples from your poetry itself, because then we'll have some poetry reading
let me begin by reading a poem. Is it okay if I read it in Hindi? Because I'm not carrying
No problem.
So this poem, which I had a translation of, but I'm not carrying the translation. This poem is addressed
No need for translation. We all understand.
Just a second. It's a poem addressed to a new father. When we were giving birth to our children, our husbands were not allowed to go inside the
Can we give you a stand mic? I think that will be useful. Stand mic. Yeah, that will be easier for you.
I'll go slow for those for whom Hindi is the second language. I'm sorry, I had the translation, but I'm not carrying it right now. Because it just came up, I thought of recite. Doctor ने कहा, वक्त बदल गया, आप लेबर रूम में जाएं. पितृत्व भी बड़ा अनुभव है जीवन का, साक्षी बने जन्म का. थोड़ा लजाता हुआ मैं भीतर गया, तो वह पहचान में नहीं आई. पीड़ा के उत्कर्ष पर भी उसने कहा मुस्कुराकर, देखो तो क्या मेरा हाल हुआ. दो दो दिल धड़क रहे हैं मुझ में, चार चार आंखों से कर रही हूँ आंखें चार मैं महाकाल से. कहती हुई यह वह लेट गई पूरी पृथ्वी पर. उसके आवेग से थर थरा उठे सब पर्वत. ठेल दिया उसने पहाड़ों को पैरों से एक तरफ. उठ रही थी उससे ऐसी उसासें, कांप कांप उठते थे उसकी उसासों से जंगल. इंद्रधनुष के 7 रंगों से था वह बिछौना सोना मौना. जन्म ले रहा था वो नया पुरुष उसके पातालों से, जिसका खाका खींचती थी वह रोज सुबह मुझे चाय देती हुई. कहती थी आकाश में जगता सूर्य देखकर, बेटी हो तब तो चिंता ही नहीं. बेटा अगर हो तो हो सुबह का सूरज, उसमें प्रचंडता नहीं हो, लोभ को क्रोध और कामनाओं के अतिरेक से पीड़ित, ओजोन छिद्र भेदता अतिशय पुरुष नई धरती के किस काम का। खुद अपना पुरुष गढ़ेगी नई धरती अब, स्वस्थ होंगी धमनियां उसकी और दृष्टि सम्यक, उसके उन उन्नत पहाड़ों से फूटेगी जब दुधैली रोशनी वह पिएगा। अंधियारा इस जग का अंजन बन उसकी आंखों में सजेगा। झूलेगी अब पूरी कायनात झूले सी, फिर धीरे धीरे बड़ा होगा नया पुरुष, संबुद्ध प्रज्ञा से शासित अनुशासित, प्रज्ञा का प्यारा भरतार। प्रज्ञा को सोती हुई छोड़कर जंगल इस बार लेकिन वह नहीं जाएगा। मेरी माँ भी कुछ कुछ ऐसा ही देखा करती थी क्या सपना, जब मुझको टखनों पर बैठा कर झूला झुलाती हुई गाती थी। नया बीती उठे पुराना बीती गिरे, बीती यानी भित्ति, नई दीवार उठे पुरानी गिरे, लेकिन उठे ही क्यों कोई दीवार, उठे आदमी उठे। उठ रहा है धीरे धीरे माँ के ही टखनों पर एक नया आदमी। कितनी सदियां बीत जाती हैं एक अदद आस फूल जाने में, कितनी लंबी होती है बाबा नन्ही से नन्ही इच्छा की उड़ान।
Beautiful.
So this is what we expect.
Ek naya aadmi. We are all looking forward to that. I had another question for you, Anamika. How are you attacking the intellectual, political and cultural hegemony? So I think already you started answering that question.
Yes, because it's a free-flowing chat. Whatever comes to my mind, I'll tell you. Look, attack is a very ferocious word and we are very scared of this. It's again a very masculine, hyper-masculine word. So, if I say it with a pinch of salt, I'll say, I attack the way an antibiotic attacks a germ. Sometimes it's curative. Purity, we already had a session on the healing element of poetry. So, in India, I was telling Hoda Sahab that, Kabiraj, even Vaidyanraj were called Kabiraj in our part of the world.
Exactly. Kabiraj means...
So there is something curative of, and Buddha was called Mahabhishag. What is the meaning of Mahabhishag? Doctors of all doctors. I mean, it's kind of alternative medicine, poetry. So sometimes I decide I go the homeopathic way or the Ayurvedic way when I am writing poetry, because I know I have more intelligent and sensitive people as my audience, those who can crack the code. And I have to tell the truth and tell it slant and they'll catch the hint because it's a sensitive crowd. All of you who are lovers of poetry, I don't have to be, act like an antibiotic attack. But if I'm writing for a newspaper, then sometimes I have to throw an antibiotic.
Poetry need not be a slogan.
Not a slogan. But there is a citizen in me also. Now that all of us have been exposed to the wider challenges of the big, most of us are working. Now, not only the woman who is a majdurni, who is a lady laborer who carries brick over her head, but most of us in the middle class also are working. We are exposed to the wider terror of Holocaust, mass exodus, terror, war. So we know that we have to act as the citizen also. Sometimes we all write newspaper columns. For that, you have to be you can afford to be a little loud. But poetry operates through silence. Again, I'm reminded of Kabir. Kabir says, "Ghungat ke pat khol re, to ko piva milenge." Now, truth is like a bride, but she has the agency in her hand. Truth only chooses when to unveil herself, when to, reveal herself in a flash. Only when the poet is, subdued his ego, that picture that he's read,
Yes.
and, submerged it in the superego, or maybe dissolved it somewhere in an ideal. And when he's waited with the patience of a lover for long years, then this bride of truth reveals. And, revelation is something that follows the track of a thunder. It goes zigzag. And to catch that big zigzag, you also have to use tropes which deal in ellipses, juxtapositions. We all have our tricks of the trade. We know how to do it. But it comes in a flash, and it has to create drama in this kind of a space. So there are certain techniques for doing that.
I think more poems need to be.
Okay, to illustrate, yes. I'll also read some, English translations for those who...
Since we have a shortage of time, I think original Hindi will do if you read 2 or 3 poems.
Okay.
Because we have another maybe 5 to 10 minutes.
Whatever you suggest. This is original English, one English, or
Yes,
Hindi
yes.
only?
Whatever you feel.
Okay, one Hindi poem. This is about, I met somebody the very first day, and she was, I found her talking to her. She was about to step on the stage, and she was talking to somebody at home. So this reminded me of me as a young mother, and this is a poem about that situation. A woman's first state-sponsored tour. She enters the hotel suite, shakes hands warmly with her solitude. The room is dark. Inside her, too, is pitch dark. The door, still wide open, allows a trace of veranda light. Fumbling for switches on the walls, where are they? A porter passing by smiles, quietly closes the door, and there, the lamps on the walls blossom into 1,000 petals, petaled lotus of light. Dazed, she thinks about the link between the strangeness of shutting the world out for one's share of light, stretching out on the yielding mattress. But what is poking her spine? The straw chattai at home? In every woman, a princess and a pea? Are those ancient memories, the pea, poking through those 7 mattresses? She has lots of things to read, but she prefers leafing through the telephone directory to locate the exact rates of IST. Then spends all her dollars gleefully on 3 separate calls home. The poem was written in 80s, so this IST. First to her son she says, "Hello, hello, darling. It wrenches my heart to think how you dozed on my clothes in my suitcase. Oh dear me, oh my dearest." In each call, the last bit she repeats and uses the same superlative for both her beloved, sitting irritably in his office, imagining weird things, and for her worried mother, dropping pots and pans all over. Angels in the sky wonder, "Frailty, thy name is woman. How dare she use her tongue to call them all her dearest?" This is plain and simple treason. Brought before the throne of God, she held her head high. God smiled, put down his pen, and said, "For women, all her dear ones are the dearest."
Beautiful. What about Striya, which is a most famous poem of yours? Would you like to read, recite?
Okay. पढ़ा गया हमको जैसे पढ़ा जाता है कागज, बच्चों की फटी कॉपियों का चना जोर गरम के लिफाफे बनाने के पहले। देखा गया हमको जैसे कि कुफ्त हो उम्मीदें, देखी जाती है कलाई घड़ी अलग सुबह अलार्म जगने के बाद। सुना गया हमको यूं ही उड़ते मन से जैसे सुने जाते हैं फिल्मी गाने, सस्ते कैसेटों पर ठसाठस ठुसी हुई बस में। भोगा गया हमको बहुत दूर के रिश्तेदारों के दुख की तरह। एक दिन हमने कहा हम भी इंसान हैं, हमें कायदे से पढ़ो एक एक अक्षर, जैसे पढ़ा होगा बीए के बाद नौकरी का पहला विज्ञापन। देखो तो ऐसे जैसे ठिठुरते हुए देखी जाती है बहुत दूर जलती हुई आग। सुनो हमें अनहद की तरह और समझो जैसे समझी जाती है नई नई सीखी हुई भाषा। इतना सुनना था कि अधर में लटकती हुई एक अदृश्य टहनी से टिड्डियां उड़ी और रंगीन अफवाहें चीखती हुई ची ची। दुष्चरित्र महिलाएं किन्हीं सरपरस्तों के दम पर फूली फैली अदरधत्त जंगली लताएं, खाती पीती सुख से ऊबी और बेकार बेचैन आवारा महिलाओं का ही शगल है ये कहानियां और कविताएं। फिर ये इन्होंने थोड़े ही लिखी हैं, कनखियां इशारे फिर कनखी, बाकी कहानी बस कनखी है। हे परम पिताओं परम पुरुषों बख्शो बख्शो अब हमें बख्शो।
So maybe final words from you on this topic.
On which topic besides? What do you want me to say? Should I think I'll read a poem.
Yes, I think that's better because I think we'll have now the closing remarks from you. I had many questions for you, but 30 minutes seems very small for us. I was going to ask you whether you like or whether you prefer writing about your body or you avoid writing about body. I wanted to ask you about your views on explicitly writing about sex in your writing, but I think our time is short, so whatever you please, if you want to read
Look,
a poem.
body has been the prime site of all kinds of tortures. So when we go to a doctor and show something, it's not like showing our body. We are going there to show our wounds. So if body comes in women's poetry, it doesn't come here because you don't yet deserve to be a Kalidasa, where we would unveil ourselves. You still have to first deserve, then desire. Maybe someday you'll turn into a Kalidasa and then we'll try and turn our wills off. But right now, most of you don't deserve to. So we are showing our wounds. There are more wounds on the bodies. We still have not reached that stage where we would like to take the veil off and be there before you.
I really had goosebumps, Anamika, hearing this.
So last word, because you asked a question about transcending gender, There are many poems where one transcends gender and writes only as a woman. The last poem that I'm going to read is called Namak. नमक दुख है धरती का और उसका स्वाद भी. धरती का 3 भाग नमकीन पानी है और आदमी का दिल नमक का पहाड़. कमजोर है दिल नमक का इतनी जल्दी पसीज जाता है. गड़ जाता है शर्म से जब फेंकी जाती हैं थालियां दाल में नमक कम या जरा तेज होने पर. ये जो खड़े हैं ना सरकारी दफ्तर शाही नमकदान है. बड़ी नफासत से छिड़क देते हैं हरदम हमारे जले पर नमक. जिनके चेहरे पर नमक है पूछिए उन औरतों से कितना भारी पड़ता है उनको उनके चेहरे का नमक. जिन्हें नमक की कीमत करनी होती है अदा उन नमक हलालों से रंज रखता है महासागर. होने नदी उन्होंने क्रांतियां रहम खा गए दुश्मनों पर. गांधी जी जानते थे नमक की कीमत और अमरूदों वाली मुनिया भी. दुनिया में कुछ और रहे न रहे रहेगा नमक. ईश्वर के आंसू और आदमी का पसीना यही वो नमक है कि जिससे थिराई रहेगी ये दुनिया. And poetry is the salt of the earth.
Beautiful.
So
Thank you so much, Anamika.
And we are all trying to settle the right proportion of salt in men. That's all. It's not too much of salt or too much of lack of salt is not going to work anymore. It's getting very insipid. Thank you.
That was such a wonderful session. May I request Bitosta Khoshal to come on stage and felicitate Yashodhara Roy Choudhury. Thank you. We come to the end of this segment of our program. May I request the curtain to be dropped?